Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Renuka RS with the evening news. The headlines. Cabinet clears bill to set up Development Finance Institution with initial capital of 20,000 crore rupees. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all banks not to be privatized, assures to protect interest of employees and staff. Eastern and Western dedicated freight corridors to be operational in 2022, Railways Minister informs Lok Sabha. Parliament passes bill providing an outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. Campaigning for assembly polls gains momentum in Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry. Notification for fourth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal issued today. Election Commission to use VVPAT at all polling stations in upcoming assembly elections. Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu account for 79% surge in new COVID-19 cases. Offer for sale equity in Tata Communications Limited witnesses 1.36 times over subscription. And in cricket, India were 127 for 5 in 18 overs against England in the third T20 at Ahmedabad. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The Union Cabinet has approved a bill to set up Development Finance Institution DFI with an initial capital infusion of 20,000 crore rupees. The bill will be tabled in Parliament during the current budget session. DFI is expected to raise long-term funds for infrastructure development projects in the country. Briefing reporters after the Union Cabinet meeting, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the initial grant to the DFI will be 5,000 crore rupees and additional increments of grants will be made within the limit of 5,000 crore rupees.
Today the Cabinet has cleared this bill through which we will have an institutional arrangement which will help in raising long-term funds. The budget provides for the initial amount. I had announced it in the budget saying capital infusion from our side would be about 20,000 crores and initial grant of 5,000 will also be made, and this year itself capital infusion is 20,000 crores.
She said the government is also planning to issue some securities to this institution by which the cost of funding will come down, and all this will help DFI leverage initial capital and draw funds from various sources. She said through this the government is expected to raise a considerable amount from the market. The finance minister said the DFI is expected to raise up to 3 lakh crore rupees in the next few years. The institution will also have some tax benefits for a 10-year long period, and the Indian Stamp Act too is being amended. About the structure of the Development Finance Institution, Ms. Sitharaman said it will have a professional board in which there will be at least 50% of them will be non-official director, and person of eminence is also envisaged in the board. The financial expert Sushma Ramachandran recognized the decision of the government as a milestone.
The Development Finance Institution that is being set up by the Government of India is something that has been long awaited by everyone. Now that the government is going ahead with such a large investment in infrastructure, it is important to raise resources for this effort, and a Development Finance Institution is certainly the way to go. Not only that, because it is set up by the government, it will attract funds from all over the world, not just from within the country, probably internationally also you will be able to raise resources. So I think this is definitely a very positive development.
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said all banks will not be privatized and assured that wherever it happens, every interest of the employees and staff will be protected. In reply to a question in a media briefing after the cabinet meeting, she emphasized that even those banks which are likely to be privatized, the institutions too will continue to function after privatization, and every interest of the workers will be taken care of, be it salary or pension.
For those which are likely to be privatized, we are obviously going to have to keep in mind that these privatized institutions will also continue to function after the privatization. We'll also have to ensure that the staff or the personnel who are there, their every interest will be protected.
The finance minister also hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi for his comments on privatization. She said Mr. Gandhi should engage in serious discussions rather than throwing these kinds of two-liners every now and then.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today said India has taken care of the needs of the world along with its domestic struggle during the COVID pandemic. Speaking at the India-Finland Virtual Summit, Mr. Modi said India sent medicines and other essentials to more than 150 countries last year. He highlighted that in recent weeks, more than 58 million doses of made-in-India vaccines reached about 70 countries. The Prime Minister emphasized that both Finland and India believe in a rules-based, transparent, humanitarian and democratic global order. Both countries have strong cooperation in areas like technology, innovation, clean energy, environment and education. He said initiatives like International Solar Alliance, ISA, and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, have been taken to increase international cooperation. He urged Finland to join both ISA and CDRI, saying these international institutions will benefit from Finland's ability and expertise. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Portuguese counterpart Antonio Luis Santos da Costa today reviewed the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the two countries. In a telephonic conversation, both leaders noted the importance of quick and equitable distribution of vaccines for ending of the pandemic.
Eastern and Western dedicated trade corridors will become operational in 2022, informed Railways Minister Piyush Goyal today in the Lok Sabha.
जब भारत 75 वर्ष आजादी के मनाएगा तब दोनों डेडिकेटेड ट्रेड कॉरिडोर ईस्टर्न और वेस्टर्न चालू हो जाएंगे जो वर्षों से लटके पड़े। लेकिन क्या 17 वर्ष लगने चाहिए एक डेडिकेटेड ट्रेड कॉरिडोर को? उसके बदले अगर सरकार जमीन अधिग्रहण कर ले, सरकार जमीन लेके इसको बिड आउट कर दे तो निजी क्षेत्र अपनी एफिशिएंसी भी लाएगा, निजी क्षेत्र अपने निवेश भी लाएगा, जल्द से जल्द उसको पूरा करेगा, सेवाएं देगा। वो सेवा किसको मिलेगी? भारत के उद्योग को मिलेगी, लोगों को नई नौकरियां मिलेंगी, भारत के उद्योग को गति मिलेगी तो भारत का जीडीपी जल्द से जल्द 5 ट्रिलियन 10 ट्रिलियन पहुंचेगा।
Participating in the discussion on demands for grants of the Ministry of Railways for 2021-22, Mr. Goyal said 2,15,000 crore rupees have been allocated for railways in 2021-22 budget. He reiterated that the railways is the property of the country and it will not be privatized. Parliament has passed the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2020 with the Rajya Sabha approving it today. The Lok Sabha had passed the bill in March last year. The bill provides for an outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. The limit is in sync with the advancements in medical technology that allows for the removal of fetus at a relatively advanced stage of pregnancy.
The bill aims to ensure the confidentiality of the process and respects the privacy of women. Besides, the legislation also regulates the conditions under which a pregnancy may be aborted. Currently, abortion requires the opinion of one doctor if it is done within 12 weeks of conception and 2 doctors if it is done between 12 and 20 weeks. The bill allows abortion to be done on the advice of one doctor up to 20 weeks and 2 doctors in the case of certain categories of women between 20 and 24 weeks. The bill also seeks to set up state-level medical boards to decide if a pregnancy may be terminated after 24 weeks in cases of substantial fetal abnormalities. With Diwakar, Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
Speaking on the bill, Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan said the bill ensures safety and well-being of women. He said the bill has been brought after extensive consultations with all stakeholders, terming the legislation as most progressive. He said it is to protect the dignity of women in the country.
The Election Commission has decided to use Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, VVPAT, along with electronic voting machines, EVM, at all the polling stations in the upcoming assembly elections in 4 states and Union Territory. Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, VVPAT, is a method of providing feedbacks to voters using EVMs. A VVPAT is intended as an independent verification system for voting machines designed to allow voters to verify that their vote was cast correctly and to provide a means to audit the stored electronic results. It contains the name of the candidate from whom vote has been cast and symbol of the party or individual candidate. This decision to use voter-verifiable paper audit trail along with electronic voting machines at all the polling stations decision was taken with a view to enhance the transparency and credibility of the election process. In West Bengal, campaigning has intensified in poll-bound areas of the first phase of assembly elections as star campaigners are crisscrossing the state to hold rallies. With just 10 days left in hand for campaigning for the first phase, the number of rallies and roadshows by star campaigners seems to be growing for BJP and TMC, while Congress and the left parties are mostly busy in holding small meetings and door-to-door campaigning. National leaders and heavyweight campaigners of BJP are being seen in the state on a regular basis, whereas star campaigners of Congress, CPIM and CPI are likely to visit the state in coming days. In poll-bound Assam, the campaigning for the first phase of polls has been intensified with the arrival of star campaigners. Along with the star campaigners of various parties, the children of top leaders have also swung into action. In Tamil Nadu, electioneering is gaining momentum after the leaders of major parties have filed their nominations. Former Union Minister Pon Radhakrishnan filed his nomination from Kanyakumari Lok Sabha constituency, where the by-election is to be held. The constituency fell vacant after the death of Vasant Kumar. Our Chennai correspondent says the last date for filing nomination is 19th of this month. Nominations will be scrutinized on the 20th. Last date for withdrawal of nomination is 22nd of March. More than 6 crore voters will cast their votes on the single-phase assembly elections on the 6th of April. In the Union Territory of Puducherry, candidates have started filing their nomination papers for the April 6th assembly elections, though the seat sharing and identification of constituencies were not finalized amongst major fronts. Our Puducherry correspondent says 27 candidates filed their nomination papers yesterday. NR Congress President N. Rangasamy filed his papers for Tattanjavadi constituency and said that he will file his nomination paper for Yanam on Wednesday. In Kerala, with only 22 days left for the general assembly elections, the state is campaigning heat. A report.
Nomination filing, Constituency 2's public meeting and home visits are in full swing in the state. In addition to the state leaders of the 3 major fronts, national leaders and star campaigners will be active in election work in coming days. The Prime Minister's visit is reported to be from March 30th to April 2nd. BDJs, an ally of NDA, released the final list of candidates today. Meanwhile, the LDF is expected to release its election manifesto today. The statewide campaign of Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan will begin from tomorrow. In UDF, the campaign is progressing in full swing. UDF is expected to announce its candidates in the remaining constituencies soon. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the evening news. Now here is a review of proceedings in Parliament today. First from the Lok Sabha, writer is Kumar Rakesh of PTI. Railway Minister Piyush Goyal has ruled out privatization of the Indian Railways but said private investment will be encouraged for more efficient functioning. Replying to a discussion on the demands for grants for railways in the Lok Sabha today, Mr. Goyal said there has been no death of any passenger in rail accidents in the past 2 years, as the railways has been putting enormous focus on the safety of passengers. The House later passed the demands for grants for railways for 2021-22. Mr. Goyal said the country can progress towards high growth and create more employment opportunities only when the public and private sectors work together. He categorically said the Indian Railways will never be privatized, as it is the property of every Indian and will remain so. The minister said the government is working to make Indian Railways the engine of growth. He sought cooperation of the state governments in the land acquisition for faster implementation of rail projects. He said if Maharashtra government gives support and makes available land in Bandra, Kurla for terminal, then high-speed bullet train using Japanese technology will come into India. He said 95% land has been acquired in Gujarat and land has also been acquired in Daman and Diu. However, in Maharashtra, only 24% land has been acquired, he said. The minister said the government is planning to complete electrification of the railways by December 2023. Mr. Goyal said the Modi government has hiked investment in railways to 2.15 lakh crore rupees in 2021-22 fiscal from 1.5 lakh crore rupees in 2019-20 fiscal. The House witnessed a war of words between the opposition Congress and the government over sedition cases, with the opposition party alleging that the stringent law is being misused, drawing a sharp retort from the Minister of State for Home Affairs, G. Kishan Reddy, who asked it not to lecture others on democracy. During the question hour, Anumula Revanth Reddy of the Congress sought the number of cases registered under the offence of sedition across the country during the last 10 years, along with the conviction rate and the steps taken for their speedy trial. The focus of his question was on climate activist Disha Ravi, who was arrested in the farmer protest toolkit case earlier this year and later granted bail, and cases registered against farmer union leaders after the January 26 violence in the national capital. The minister tabled a written response to the question, giving the details of sedition cases registered between 2014 and 2019. The minister said there is no direct involvement of the centre in sedition cases. However, Mr. Anumula Revanth Reddy was not satisfied with the response and sought more details. He also wanted to know whether there is a proposal to drop the alleged false charges against farmer union leaders protesting against the centre's 3 farm laws. Responding to this, the minister said the National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB data, is based on the information received from all the states. Mr. Ravneet Singh of the Congress said privatization of public sector banks will compromise financial security, as private sector banks will extend credit to large businesses and not think about the poor. He said 10 lakh employees of 9 public banks are on strike to protest privatization and asked the government to start dialogue with the employee unions. Lok Sabha has taken up discussion on the demands for grants of the Ministry of Education for 2021-22. Participating in the discussion, Congress member Shashi Tharoor welcomed the government's decision to bring in national education policy. He said the government has reduced budgetary allocations for several educational schemes. Mr. Tharoor of the Congress said there is a need to bridge the digital divide gap by allocating more funds on key educational schemes. BJP member Sanjay Jaiswal praised the new education policy and said it will change the wrong education being imparted to children in the past. He wondered how many children will know about poet Kalidas, who many might know as the Shakespeare of the East. Jaiswal also urged the government to do something with respect to coaching centres and to ensure that there are no coaching classes for engineering and medical examinations before a student completes 10th class. Tejasvi Surya of the BJP said the new education policy has removed artificial discrimination between curriculum and extracurriculum. He said Prime Minister Modi-led government has increased educational institutions by quality and quantity. Shiv Sena member Arvind Sawant said more focus should be given on infrastructure at primary school level. Ritesh Pandey of BSP said only 21% women are going for higher education because of various social and financial circumstances. Faisal Muhammad of NCP and Hasnain Masoodi of National Conference also participated in the debate. The discussion on this bill was continuing till the writing of the script.
And now review of proceedings in the Rajya Sabha. Writer is Namita Tiwari of the PTI. Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat told the Rajya Sabha today that work is underway in projects worth 1.91 lakh crore rupees under the flagship Jal Jeevan Mission aimed at providing drinking water to every rural household in the country. Replying to a discussion on the working of the Jal Shakti Ministry, Mr. Shekhawat said the centre was in touch with the state for effective implementation of the project. Terming the scenario as challenging, Mr. Shekhawat said a number of steps were initiated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he understood the plight, pain and sufferings of the people. Stating that water crisis can have a negative impact on the GDP by 6%, the Jal Shakti Minister said that India's water requirement would double by 2030 and grow 4 times by year 2050. In this context, he said the government will launch a campaign in 700 districts on 22nd of this month. Mr. Shekhawat said Prime Minister Narendra Modi has fixed 2024 as the target for providing water to every home. He attacked the opposition for raising questions over the intent of the government. He pointed that more than 3.77 crore households were provided tap water connections under the mission, saying that Modi hai to mumkin hai, meaning Modi can make it possible. Jal Jeevan Mission, the 3.6 lakh crore rupees flagship program of the Narendra Modi government, aims at providing tap water connections to all rural households by 2024. Mr. Shekhawat said, with the initiatives by the centre from remote areas in Leh and Ladakh to Jaisalmer and Saurashtra, people were getting potable water at home. Mr. Shekhawat said about 2.5 lakh representatives in Gram Sabhas were sent personalised letters by Prime Minister Modi to conserve water, and meetings were held in 2 lakh villages. As many as 256 districts were identified. Officials were sent to these districts and were apprised on afforestation, water conservation, he said. The minister attacked the opposition-ruled states for not utilizing central funds. Swapan Das Gupta, a nominated member of the House, has tendered his resignation today after being named as a BJP candidate in the West Bengal Assembly elections. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman informed the members that the funds under the Members of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, MP LADS for 2019-20 have been released. B. Lingaya Yadav of the TRS had raised the matter during the 0 hour. Responding on this, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said several members from different parties had made representations in this regard. The minister said it is well known that for 2020-21 and 2021-22, the decision had been taken that no new commitments for MP LADS will be made and therefore no allocation will be made, she said. The minister said that whatever commitments have been made for the year 2019-20 will be honoured. She also informed the members that the Reserve Bank is taking necessary measures to strengthen its regulatory and supervisory capacity and expressed hope that the steps will ensure no regulatory mishaps takes place in the future. She said the government has been engaging with the RBI to ensure that the regulatory and supervisory functions of the RBI are strengthened. The minister said that she was assured by the RBI governor that internally an institutional mechanism is being further strengthened. Sitharaman said this during the question hour in the Rajya Sabha. In a separate issue, she said that permission to new private banks for conducting government-related business will be given under the RBI guidelines. She said the government has now only indicated the RBI to allow other private banks to perform government-related business to ensure there is a level playing field. In reply to a question, Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs Anurag Singh Thakur said there is a clear definition in the Schedule 7 of the Companies Act 2013 where all CSR funds can be spent. Mr. Thakur also said food items in the Consumer Price Index are showing a month-on-month decline. The Rajya Sabha today passed a bill which seeks to provide for regulation and maintenance of standards of education and services by allied and healthcare professionals. The National Commission for Allied and Healthcare Professionals Bill 2020 was passed by the Rajya Sabha through a voice vote. Replying to a debate on the bill, Health Minister Harshvardhan said that of the 110 recommendations made by a parliamentary committee on it, the government accepted 102, while 6 recommendations were accepted with slight modifications. Only 2 recommendations were not accepted. The bill provides for regulation and maintenance of standards of education and services by allied and healthcare professionals, assessment of institutions, maintenance of a central register and state register, and creation of a system to improve research and development and adoption of latest scientific advancement. Rajya Sabha also passed a bill to raise the upper limit for permitting abortions from the present 20 weeks to 24 weeks for special categories of women, including rape survivors, victims of incest, minors, and the differently abled. The Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2020 to amend the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971 was passed by a voice vote. The bill was passed by Lok Sabha about a year ago. A demand to send the bill to a select committee of Rajya Sabha was defeated by voice vote along with some other amendments proposed by members. Union Health Minister Harshvardhan said the amendments in the bill have been made after studying global practices and wide consultation within the country. He said this is to preserve and protect dignity of women. The minister said the suggestions and objections made to the bill by some members were symbolic in nature and aligned with their party ideology. Harshvardhan told the House that extensive consultations were done before the bill was passed in the Lok Sabha last year, and it was also approved by the Ethics Committee and a group of ministers headed by Nitin Gadkari. He said the bill is a step towards safety and well-being of a woman, and it will enlarge the ambit of access of women to safe and legal abortion without compromising on safety and quality of care. Vardhan told the House that the bill was also ensure dignity, autonomy, confidentiality and justice for women who need to terminate pregnancy. Congress leader Pratap Singh Bajwa submitted a resolution to send it to a select committee. Fauzia Khan of NCP, Binoy Viswam of CPI, Santanu Sen of AITC, Chaudhry Sukhram Singh Yadav of Samajwadi Party, Jharnadas Baidya of CPIM and Priyanka Chaturvedi of Shiv Sena also participated in the debate. During the 0 hour, leader of the opposition and senior Congress leader Mallikarjun Kharge raised the issue of 2-day nationwide bank strike. He said the government has taken a decision to privatize 2 public sector banks without consulting the 75 crore account holders, who too are the stakeholders. Sanjay Singh of Aam Aadmi Party, Shaktisan Gohil of Congress, M. Shanmugam of DMK, Revati Raman Singh of Samajwadi Party and Ram Nath Thakur of JDU also raised the issues of public importance. And that's all in Parliament Review.
Back to the news. The government has said that 5 states, Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, continue to report a surge in the COVID daily new cases. Union Health Ministry said more than 79% of new cases are reported from these states in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra has reported the highest daily new cases at over 15,000. It is followed by Punjab with 1,818 cases, while Kerala reported over 1,000 new cases. Kerala is reporting a consistently declining trend over the last month. In the wake of surging COVID-19 cases, Madhya Pradesh government has announced night curfew in Bhopal and Indore from March the 17th. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
Thermal screening of those coming from Maharashtra will remain continued. Also, they will remain in isolation for a week. The market will remain closed after 10 p.m. in 8 cities of the state, which are Jabalpur, Gwalior, Ujjain, Ratlam, Chhindwara, Burhanpur, Baitul and Khargone. There will be no curfew-like situation in these cities, but the market will inevitably remain closed. At present, in Bhopal and Indore, the number of COVID-19 patients is increasing rapidly. Pooja Pivardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
The offer for sale of government shares in TCL received huge response on the first day of its launch. The issue has been subscribed 2.19 times of its base size at a clearing price above the floor price by the non-retail investors. Government has decided to exercise the green shoe option, which provides the issuer with a provision to offer more shares than initially decided while launching the scheme. The bidding process for retail investors will open tomorrow. In cricket, India have set a target of 157 runs for England in the third T20 match at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad today. Skipper Virat Kohli's valiant 77 in 46 balls helped India to make a respectable total of 156 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in 20 overs. Earlier, KL Rahul was dismissed for a second consecutive duck in the ongoing series. Rohit Sharma made 15 in 17 balls, while Ishan Kishan was out for 4. Rishabh Pant made 25 in 20 balls. Shreyas Iyer made 9 runs. For England, Mark Wood took 3 wickets.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. National capital Delhi is likely to have mist in the morning. The temperature will hover between 17 and 34 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature will be 22 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 35. Chennai is expected to have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will vary between 24 and 32 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. The city will observe minimum temperature of 23 and maximum of around 36. Srinagar will have thunderstorm with rain. Temperature will hover between 6 and 12 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The minimum temperature will be 14 and the maximum will be around 27. Leh is expected to have partly cloudy sky towards afternoon or evening, with minimum temperature around -2 and maximum will be around 10 degrees.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Cabinet clears bill to set up development finance institution with initial capital of 20,000 crore rupees. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says all banks not to be privatized, assures to protect interest of employees and staff. Eastern and Western dedicated freight corridors to be operational in 2022, Railways Minister informs Lok Sabha. Parliament passes bill providing an outer limit of 24 weeks for medical termination of pregnancy. Campaigning for assembly polls gains momentum in Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry. Notification for fourth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal issued today. Election Commission to use VVPAT at all polling stations in upcoming assembly elections. Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu account for 79% surge in new COVID-19 cases. Offer for sale equity in Tata Communications Limited witnesses 2.19 times oversubscription. And in cricket, India set a target of 157 runs for England in the third T20 at Ahmedabad. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.